In this final segment of aortic dissection, we will talk about the management and we will conclude with that. So, the management, in the first hour, we have got some primary goals. Okay, the primary and the most important thing is that we want to reduce the aortic shear force, because what we want to do is we want to minimize the extension of dissection. So, it can be done by, first, if we decrease the cardiac contractile force, right? The delta, the rate of pressure rising in the aorta during asystole, if we decrease that, we can minimize the extension. Second is if we decrease the heart rate, if we keep it below 60 beats per minute. And third thing is we decrease the blood pressure. Generally, we can keep it closer to the low to normal range. What we can most commonly focus on in ED are these two things. If we decrease both of these, by the physiology, our delta force is going to decrease. So then what are our agents of choice? One drug that reduces both effectively are beta blockers. This is the preferred treatment, right? Because it reduces the heart rate and it decreases the contractility, and also it reduces the blood pressure. The drug that is most talked about is esmolol. It is the first line drug which is given in the dose of 0.5 mg per kg over 1 minute, and then we start an infusion of 50 mic per kg per minute. We can increase the infusion if it is not effective to reach to a maximum of 300 mic per kg per minute. And also these boluses, we can keep giving them frequently. Why esmolol is preferred is because it has got a very short half-life. It's got half-life of about 9 minutes. It's very titratable, and if the patient deteriorates, that is the patient becomes bradycardic, hypotensive, then you just stop the infusion and the effect wears off easily. If for some reason esmolol is not present, then the other drug of choice becomes labetalol. This we can give around 10 to 20 mg IV every 10 minutes, or you can start the patient on infusion of 0.5 to 2 mg per minute. It has got a combined alpha 1 and beta blockade, so it reduces the vascular tone and blood pressure as well. The only problem is that it has got a longer half-life than esmolol, and that is why it is less titratable. We can also consider metoprolol for patients, especially if the patient is a COPDer, because it causes less bronchospasm risk than the other non-selective beta blockers. But if for some reason beta blocker is contraindicated, then calcium channel blockers can also achieve the same targets like diltiazem and verapamil. Now let's say we have given the patient beta blocker and still they are hypertensive. So then what is a way to effectively reduce their hypertension is by vasodilation. But the important thing is that never give a vasodilator without first giving a beta blocker. Why? Because a vasodilator alone decreases the blood pressure, and that can cause a reflexive sympathetic activation leading to increased heart rate and worsens the shear force on the aortic wall. So give vasodilators, but only after the beta blocker is established to prevent the sympathetic activation. We do have two agents over here. We have got nitroprusside. This is given in 0.25 to 0.5 mic per kg per minute dose, and you can increase it to max 10 mic per kg per minute. It is very potent, it is short acting and very titratable. The only thing is that we have to check for cyanide toxicity if we are thinking about a prolonged infusion. The other drug we can think about is enalaprilat, which is an IV ACE inhibitor. although it is not very commonly used in an ED setting in most places. So nitroprusside will remain the drug of choice. Blood pressure target is to be kept in the low normal. Then what is the low normal that we are aiming for? If you're thinking about a type B dissection, we are aiming for 100 to 120 systolic pressure. And ideally, these patients should get an arterial line in the uninvolved extremity, because then you can monitor and you can titrate your therapy very closely and continuously. Another management principle is obviously going to be analgesia, because these patients are or can come in significant amount of pain, and that pain can lead to a sympathetic discharge, leading to increased heart rate, leading to increased blood pressure, and increase in on the aortic shear force. So what are our analgesic agents of choice? We have got fentanyl. Fentanyl we can give in the dose of 0.5 mic per kg every 30 minutes as it is needed. It is very good because it has got a short life, minimal hemodynamic effects, and it is very valuable, especially if the patient is going to be hypotensive. But obviously morphine is also reasonable if the patient is hemodynamically stable. We can give 0.1 mg per kg IV every hour as needed. The fourth line of management is going to be if the patient is going to be in a shock state or in a hypotensive state. Now, this is an emergency within an emergency, right? We have to identify why they are in a shocked state. Are they having cardiac tamponade? Are they having internal hemorrhage? Are they having some kind of stroke, or is this a dysrhythmia? Because that is going to determine our temporizing measure. If we want to give them fluids, if we want to give them blood, or if we want to give them vasopressors to maintain perfusion. If we have to give them vasopressors, we can start with norepinephrine or phenylephrine, both of which we are going to titrate to a MAP of more than 65. Finally, on the disposition and on the prognosis side, all patients with a confirmed aortic dissection need an emergent vascular surgery or surgical consultation and admission to ICU or OR. If it is going to be a type A dissection, then they need a cardiothoracic surgical consultation. But if it is a type B uncomplicated dissection, then they can go to ICU, they can have medical management there and vascular surgery opinion. So this is where the consulting specialties come into play. The prognosis of these patients depend on what kind of dissection it is. For type A, they have a mortality of about 1 to 2% per hour immediately after the symptom. This is why early diagnosis matters a lot in these patients. Mortality increases significantly the longer these patients remain undetected, untreated, plus if they have any complication like pericardial tamponade, coronary artery involvement, carotid artery involvement, etc. Type B, on the other hand, they have a 30-day mortality of around 10%. But if they develop any ischemic complications, any malperfusion syndromes, any contained rupture, then that mortality goes up from 10 to 20% by day 2 and 25% by day 30. Long term, for type B patients, they need long term surveillance with very strict BP control. So for these patients, if they ever come to ED for any repeated visit, the threshold for any kind of definitive imaging should be very low, because the dissection can recur, it can expand or develop new complications. This brings us to the end of the video.